And thank you so much for finding time to being with us today. It is Monday, the 7th of January 2022. I trust that you had a wonderful weekend. The show is Kenya and Africa at a glance. My name is Miriam Gutu, and it is a pleasure to have you on board. As usual, I'll take us through quickly the headlines this morning, and then I will bring in my panelists and we shall start our conversation. So we will start with, of course, the local newspapers. And we will look at the Daily Nation, and the main headline on the Daily Nation: "Take it from me, it's over between Uhuru and Ruto." The story is on page 7. That is an interview that was done. I think Kanini Kega there giving his version on what is happening. And then the main headline on the Daily Nation: "Breaking the Ruto Juggernaut." Beneath the smile, it's now or never for Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, and the Azimio movement. And to signal they mean business, they've deployed heavyweight governors and ministers to counter the William Ruto offensive. And then just down there, MPs poke holes in CBC. And MPs and Teachers Union have raised fresh concerns over the implementation of the competency-based curriculum CBC, citing inadequate capacity by teaching staff. And the curriculum is set. For rollout in secondary schools next year. Speaking in Kericho County at the weekend, the stakeholders faulted the government for putting more emphasis on building classrooms to accommodate the rising number of students and failing to adequately train and employ more teachers. That is on the back page of the Daily Nation. And just besides that, sugar import barriers embolden smugglers. A special nation investigation reveals a thriving underworld movement that supplies the commodity to Kenya traders right under the nose of the government officials and police officers. That is on page 10 on the Daily Nation. And then that is what we have there. And then we turn our attention to the Standard newspaper. And the main headline on the Standard newspaper: "Why we left Raila to join Ruto." Mudavadi, ANC leader, and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula moved to appease the home base, explaining why they chose Kenya Kwanza over Azimio la Umoja, despite their support for Raila in 2007 and 2017, and intense criticism by, among others, Kotu boss Francis Atwoli. The story is on page 8 on the Standard newspaper. And doctors' body held over 18 million Kenya shillings bill. That is on page 3. Poll losers struggling to pay petition bills. And close to 5 years after last elections, those who lost their bids to oust incumbents through the courts are yet to pay millions in litigation courts. The story is on page 11 and 12 of the Standard newspaper. Listing of voters closes as counties hit by low turnout. We shall look at that on page 6 on the Standard newspaper. And Queen's 70th year royal journey that started in Kenya, that is on page 27. And of course, she was the age of 17 there. So that is what we have. And on the Star newspaper, the main headline: Raila's Jumbo coalition to be named on the 26th. That is what we have on the front page of the Star newspaper. So let me just look at some of the papers that we do have across the continent of Africa. And before perhaps I do that, there is another paper, I don't know if I can find it, called People Daily. I saw it. All right, here it is. Uhuru out to retain power, Ruto team. Without offering evidence, Kenya Kwanza leaders claim president is the patron of the Raila-led Azimio la Umoja movement, that he intends to pick the ODM leader's running mate in a power-sharing arrangement. The story is on page 5. An integrity test over tainted aspirants. I think all of us are waiting to see how EACC, IBC will clear some of these aspirants seeking to run and be elected in this positions they're seeking. And then we just look at some other regional papers. There's a Punch newspaper from Nigeria. NIMC portal breaks down, banks, telcos, passport insurance suffer. That is the main headline. And F, a federal government school feeding suffers, setback, people's wait in vain for vendors. You'll find it on page, I guess, 2. And external reserves slide to 4 months low at 39.98 billion US dollars there in Nigeria. And the Guardian, still from Nigeria, Nigeria's domain name fails to gain traction, attracts 184,341 users. Okay, and then from Zimbabwe, Zim losing faith in national polls. Analysts say voter registration apathy points to this dejection. I think that could be perhaps what we'll be saying. The exercise that has just concluded on voter registration, voter apathy there was something that was real, as we shall look at when we look at that topic. Headmasters join teacher strike, still from Zimbabwe. And the Herald, still from Zimbabwe, African Union faith in Zimbabwe, source of pride. That is the main headline. And then the Ugandan New Vision, parishes to get over 180 billion Ugandan shillings. That is there. And the Daily Monitor, still from Uganda. UNEB, I think the Ugandan National Examination Board, sets 2022 exams fee rules. That is the main headline. And then that is just what we are. The Citizen from Tanzania, what bill seeks to change in money laundering law. And slow execution of project Ike's Samia. She wants things to be done quick and fast, and apparently that is not the rate they've been moving at. So that is just some of the headlines on some of the papers from across Africa, and indeed started some from Kenya. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you're tuned in today. At this point, I'd like to bring in my panelists. We're joined today by Douglas Kirimi from Meru County. It's been a while, Douglas. A very good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu, and also to my friend Sean Wesonga, and to our crew at our headquarters. Thank you, Miriam. It's been a minute. It's been a month of activities here and there, but we thank God we are here and we are ready to go. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right, nice to have you. And we are also joined by Daniel Wesonga, our in-house analyst and our correspondent from Nairobi. Wesonga, very good morning to you.
Yes, a very, very good morning to you, Miriam Ogutu. Good morning to my brother, Douglas Kirimi Bundi in Meru. Good morning to our viewers here in Nairobi, Kenya, East Africa, Africa, and the rest of the world who are joining us this morning. It is my pleasure to be on the conversation with you this particular morning, Miriam. Good morning.
Okay, and before we get into the politics, because a lot of it is just politics, I know Wesonga on Friday, we had a bit of a conversation on universal healthcare. I think it will be appropriate for us to have a proper conversation just for a couple of minutes before we get into other news-making headlines this morning. And so perhaps just a key highlight, and then maybe you can comment an overview on what the government has been doing when it comes to the universal healthcare. I'm sure Kenyans, I really want to know what has happened, especially after that pilot that was done in 4 counties. And I know some other political leaders have been taking this opportunity to rubbish and saying, you know, this universal healthcare was one of a few things, but it failed because of this and the other. And so let's just see what the government has been able to do just shortly. The government of Kenya, of course, adopted the universal healthcare as one of the big 4 priority agenda. The aspiration is that by 2022, that is this year, all citizens will have access to quality healthcare services that they need without getting into financial hardships. The Ministry of Health and the entire health sector aims to achieve this goal through supporting provision of equitable, affordable and quality health and related services at the highest attainable standards to all Kenyans. Further, universal healthcare improves or maintains health through needed services for individuals and populations. And then access to and use of health services enables people to be more productive and active contributors to their families, communities, and society at large. And the government of Kenya has paid for 1 million poor and vulnerable families to access healthcare in the UHC scale-up exercise. The vulnerable families can now enjoy the UHC Super Cover Benefits Package. And of course, the highlight in the UHC a scale-up launch, which will take place on Monday, February 7th, 2022 in Mombasa County, will be presided over by President Uhuru Kenyatta. So let me just look at some of the successful successes of this UHC, or some of the successes under the universal healthcare. We know the free maternity services, also dubbed as the Linda Mama, where over 1 million mothers get free services every year when delivering under skilled attendants, and I've seen that that is true. The removal of user fees in primary healthcare facilities, level 2 and level 3, with about 45 million free outpatient services annually, and the health insurance subsidy program and the medical scheme for the elderly and people living with disabilities that has benefited 181,000 households and 42,000 people respectively. There's also something else called Edu Afya Benefits Package, and President Uhuru Kenyatta launched the 4.05 billion Kenya shillings National Hospital Insurance Fund, comprehensive medical cover to cater for students in public secondary schools. So this is targeted for students in public secondary schools. Through the cover dubbed Edu Afya, the government paid a premium of 1,350 per student. 350 Kenya shillings per student, targeting 3 million students who are in public secondary schools to fulfill the Big Four agenda provision of affordable healthcare. And I'll just put a stop to there. And perhaps I'll start with you, Daniel Wesonga. Were you aware that we had the Edu Afya benefits packages? I did not know.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam Ogutu. And of course, I've been following whatever the Presidential Delivery Unit has been doing. I've been following whatever the CS for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, has been doing in terms of just boosting the universal health coverage. And I believe these are very, very good steps towards ensuring that every Kenyan of any race, of any political affiliation, of any background, is actually able to access affordable and timely and efficient healthcare. Remember, in doing this, they are not only maybe ensuring that Kenyans have maybe access to NHIF card, which is actually meant to assist them paying the hospital bills and maybe a few things here and there in terms of drugs and diagnosis and all that. But they are also ensuring that these hospitals are also well equipped to be able to treat and diagnose any kind of disease that might be there for any person who is visiting these hospitals. When you go around Nairobi, you realize that right now we have actually a total of 19 hospitals which are operating across Nairobi from maybe previously 5 or thereabout. So, and also you've seen that the government has embarked on actually equipping the hospitals across the counties and also in major cities. Also, another thing is the training of medical staff, as well as also just ensuring that we do not have these intermittent strikes that have been actually sabotaging our health sector. So to me, I believe, Miriam, these are very, very right move in the right direction. Remember, apart from the basic needs of food, shelter, health is also a human need, and any country that ensures that its citizenry has access to affordable healthcare, then this is a country that is healthy. This is a country whose labor force is actually able to push the economy and be able to be productive, to earn its GDP and be able to go and conquer the world in the economic space. So to me, I believe these are very, very important strategy in terms of healthcare. And I saw yesterday in one of the international media houses that Kenya is among the few African countries which have actually embarked to walk on the path of ensuring that we have universal health coverage before the year 2030. And therefore, that puts us at a place of advantage even in the disease eradication and many, many other health matters that will ensure that we build a nation that is healthy. And that will also help in actually improving the life expectancy of the people of Kenya. So to me, Miriam, health is very, very important. Health comes before any economic thing. You realize how COVID-19 was able to disrupt the global economy. And that is why they always say that your health is your wealth. So a healthy nation is a wealthy nation. And that is why I support President Uhuru Kenyatta in his legacy of ensuring that we have universal health coverage. And this week, we're going to have the launch of the project. Of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta will be addressing that particular conference, and I believe more will be unveiled in what the president has been doing and what actually stands for the future. So these are very, very important projects, Miriam, and I believe it's going to help Kenyans of all generation, of all walks of life, to actually benefit from the institution of health in this country, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Daniel. And I think one of the key things we know when it comes to the universal healthcare is the Linda Mama and and others. But for the Edu Afia benefits package, I didn't even know it existed. Okay, I know I do have a child in high school, but these targets are, public, secondary schools. What does this mean to a common man who cannot afford the option of taking their child? Because we know even if you take insurance for your child, the health cover, it limits up to a certain age. So what does this mean to parents who cannot afford alternative healthcare for their children? And the government is taking care of that and paying this for them to, in case they fell sick, they can be taken to the hospital, and the parents do not have to cover for it, Douglas.
Thank you, Miriam. For me, I think the President of the Republic of Kenya, greatest legacy, as Sean Wesonga said, is on the healthcare services or the system that he has been able to put in place and that is going to bequeath the next administration or the next generation of leaders who are coming to take over the baton and also make sure that the people of Kenya access healthcare at a cost that is affordable or at all free. Because Miriam, it all goes down to the maternal healthcare, the Linda Mama program that is spearheaded by President Uhuru Kenyatta. We all know that today our mothers do not pay anything when they go to hospital, when they are giving birth and taking care of their children. And that has been able to improve the mortality rate of our children in this country, and also the lives of women that has been on the risk, that have been put on risk, are no longer on risk, and these people continue enjoying quality health care. The same goes to our children in schools. When our children get sick, Miriam, they do not have to cough some amounts of ridiculous amounts of money to private hospitals or government hospitals to be able to pay for their health care. Parents can be able to sit pretty down and also make sure that they enjoy their peace as they educate their children without necessarily having to look into their health care. For example, Miriam, when I was in high school or primary school, I had an issue. I used to be a very sick student. I used to go to hospital almost 2 to 3 times per week. And this, Miriam, would have affected my parent if they were not able to take care of my medical needs for a period of about 4 to 5, 6 years. But now, if I was under the dispensation of President Uhuru Kenyatta, my father would not have been able to take me to hospital 2 to 3 times per week, or maybe in a month, I would have gone to hospital like 6 times. And this was also, I saw this as a burden. I was being educated, others were being educated, and also my healthcare needs were being taken by the same parent. It was a burden that now, if there is other child or other parent, other guardians or parents across the nation, I truly believe there are so many others with other medical needs that needs frequent medical attention that the President of the Republic of Kenya has been able to take care of through the Ministry of Health. And this is the legacy that the President of the Republic of Kenya will leave to the common man, Miriam. What if there are so many of us out here who have medical needs that need attention now and then, and also to make sure that these people are put in school, these children are put in school, and their parents do not focus on their health care, the government focuses on that. I think this is admirable, Miriam, and I think the next administration, the President of the Republic of Kenya bequeaths this task, or bequeaths this baton, makes sure that the people of Kenya, especially the parents, especially students, are put in school and they continue enjoying quality health care without minding who pays what and who takes what. And at the end of the day, our children are going to enjoy proper health care, stay in school, maybe finish their secondary school and go on to become better citizens, go to universities, tertiary centers, and make a living for themselves and become people that are going to contribute to the better of our nation and nation building, Miriam. Thank you.
Very well. Let me just read through just a bit of this, and then we will just move on to the other news making headlines. So just a breakdown of what this universal healthcare is set out to achieve, and that is 100% access to essential health benefits package by, as I said there earlier, 2022. So we are right here. So hopefully by the time President Uhuru Kenyatta leaves office in August, this will be achieved. And then 100% access to essential medicines by, again, 2022, and reduction of out-of-pocket expenditure from the current 32% to 20% of household expenditure per year by 2022, that is this year. So they're saying even if you have to pay for other services, then you will not have to fork out a lot because the government would have reduced that for you, so just a little bit for the ones that cannot fully be covered. And then move closer to the optimum ratio of 23 health workers per 10,000 population, and that is the standard according to World Health Organization, by steadily increasing it from the current ratio of 10 health workers per 10,000 population to 13 health workers per 10,000 populations by 2022. So these are things President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to achieve before he leaves office, and increase coverage of community units from 55% to 100% per 2022, and increase population access within a 5-kilometer radius to a health facility from 91% to 100% in 2000. So these are things that President Uhuru Kenyatta does not want to leave a burden to the next government to do. These are things, this is his goals that he set, and how the strategy and how he was going to, the government was going to achieve the universal healthcare. And this is the laid out plans. But we know as much as, of course, healthcare services, especially in the remote areas, Daniel Wasonga, a key factor has been they have been inaccessible. There are not so many of them, and the ones that are available, some residents have to walk kilometers upon kilometers to get there, and sometimes have led to deaths of mothers who perhaps are going to deliver, or people dying on the way who are seriously ill and things like that. So President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to decrease that gap and ensure healthcare services are as accessible as possible. But even as we look at that, can we look at the quality and perhaps the medication and the staffing? I see also they want to bring in more medical staff, personnel, to ensure they're able to take care of the increased number of perhaps Kenyans who will be now seeking out for these services. But can we talk about the quality of the healthcare that perhaps, and how that should be improved so that it's not just I can access that hospital, but if I go there, can I get the services and the medication that I need when I go there?
Thank you so much, Miriam. And of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his government have been working towards closing the gap between maybe the distance or the circumference within which Kenyans are able to find a medical facility and seek medical assistance. And that having started even from here, the city of Nairobi, you realize just having growth of from maybe 5 to all 19 hospitals around Nairobi, that's quite a milestone. And I believe if that is going to be replicated in the counties across Kenya, then we will achieve that particular goal of having universal health coverage to every corner, to every hinterland here in Kenya, to enable Kenyans access affordable healthcare. Also, on matters maybe the quality of health, I know Kenyan nurses, Kenyan doctors are among the best in the world. However, last week we saw also the CS for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, meeting the CEO of Kenya Medical Training College. And this was in an effort to actually boost the training that is being undertaken at the Kenya Medical Training College. We've seen also the MPs have taken an initiative upon themselves to construct and maybe build more Kenya Medical Training College campuses across the counties. I believe if we can now be able to do some checks and balances on how these professionals, medical practitioners are being trained, and just put make sure that they adhere to the standards that are stipulated by the relevant boards that actually oversee these students and the practitioners, I believe it's quite achievable. Our health sector is not quite as bad as maybe many African countries, because some of our nurses work in the US, some of our nurses work in the UK and other Western countries without maybe perhaps undergoing too much maybe retraining in those particular countries. That tells you that we have actually some of the best medical practitioners here in Kenya. All Kenya needs right now is that the infrastructure and the facilities that enable these health workers to work more effectively and efficiently. So once the government will be able to redistribute or maybe equip these local and interior hospitals and clinics or maybe health centers with ultra-modern facilities that allow these practitioners to work effectively, then patients or Kenyans won't have to travel all the way to the major cities to be able to get the medical assistance that they do walk all miles to go seek it out of town or somewhere else. So to me, I believe, Miriam, we are not far off from the target. We are actually just in need of a few improvements and a few facilities, and then we'll be off the road. And of course, we'll be able to achieve the universal health coverage, which is one of the agendas of President Uhuru Kenyatta, of the big 4 agendas.
Okay. Douglas Kirimi, do you see a point in time, because I see a lot of these things President Uhuru Kenyatta has set as a target for him to do and to accomplish before he leaves office come August, but in the long run, perhaps in the incoming government and perhaps in years to come, do you see a point where Kenyans will stop, perhaps visiting more, the private hospitals? There's nothing wrong with that if you can afford to, but sometimes people go there because they feel, if I went to a public hospital nearby, I might not get the medication I need, I may not get some of the services I need, and some perhaps they're not equipped properly to handle or to offer the service that perhaps some Kenyans are looking for. Moving forward, is it about time we really paid attention? And I think this is a good step from President Uhuru Kenyatta's government right now, but moving forward in the long run, we pay more attention to our public health care facilities and the services that are offered there, because at the end of the day, they get to serve the majority of Kenyans. And if we've learned anything from this COVID pandemic, is that we need proper public health institutions. So what are some of the key things that perhaps they should strategize, the government right now, the incoming government, to want to achieve in terms of ensuring that Kenyans have access to quality healthcare in public health facilities?
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Miriam. And your question brings me to one issue that we need to confront as a people, and also people who support President Uhuru Kenyatta. We are coming from a place where we had a president who ruled this country for 24 years of misrule, 24 years of running down our economy, 24 years of running down our healthcare and every other sector, including the tea sector, the coffee sector, the sugarcane sector, cotton, pyrethrum, and everything. Then we had another president who came in and focused on education and improved the quality of education, gave us free primary education and all that, and also focused on a few other sectors. Then we have had a trailblazer, a young president who was so energetic, Miriam, focused on infrastructure, focused on healthcare, focused on the economy, and focused on every other sector of this government or economy, Miriam. Because when we look at what the president has been able to do in healthcare, it was never done by President Kibaki or President Moi. It is President Uhuru Kenyatta who is coming to the fore and reviving the health sector, improving the health sector, introducing new technology in the sector, and also making sure that the people of Kenya pay less or even pay nothing, especially the Operation Linda Mama, the program Linda Mama, where we can be able to take our women to hospital even before they give birth, and after they give birth, they continue being taken care of by government in an healthcare system that is working. And one of the key things that we can be able to do as a country or an economy or the next regime, we need to bequeath government to responsible leaders, people of integrity, people that can be able to put the interest of the people of Kenya first before their own. Because Miriam, the gains that have been done by the President of the Republic of Kenya, including infrastructure, agriculture, and healthcare, those are issues that can only be entrusted to individuals that are very responsible Two, the interest of the people of Kenya, public good and their own welfare. Because Miriam, if we do not do that, we are going to have another government or another regime that runs down the gains of President Uhuru Kenyatta, trying to outshine what has been done before to bring new ideas or maybe old methods to the fore that Miriam are going to draw back the gains that the President of the Republic of Kenya has done. Another perspective that I have on the same, we need to be able to, number one, continue improving the quality of health care. The way Vision 2030 says that within a radius of 5 kilometers, we should have a dispensary or an health center that is working and being serviced well and has quality medicine for all and every other person in the Republic of Kenya. We all know that healthcare was devolved to the counties, and counties have been able to build the structures. They have been able to build brick and mortar buildings without quality medicine or quality trained personnel to operate in those dispensaries or health centers in the counties. And we need to be able to downscale this to the very village level, from one village to another, so that we can be able to, number one, improve the way we handle our personnel and also improve their pay so that they can be able to be motivated to work in government rather than working in the private sector. Because Miriam, the difference between the public hospitals and also private hospitals, it's not the brick and mortar infrastructure. It is the human infrastructure and also how they are treated in terms of pay and also in terms of how every from the top to bottom, how they are done, their treatment is taken care of. And also to make sure that when our public officers who are doctors, nurses, and subordinate staff who are working in the healthcare sector are taken care of in the next dispensation. We do not want to have a situation where we are having disagreements on bargain agreements between government and also their workers. We need to be able to improve on the same, because I think from my perspective, the President of the Republic of Kenya has tried, because this is a complete system overall on every sector of this economy. We've seen so much improvement on the same. Those are two key factors that I think can be able to propel the next dispensation of leaders and the next generation of leaders and the next regime to the best healthcare services that the people of Kenya can be able to attain, and also to be able to be served by the healthcare system that is working and an healthcare system that cares for the people. Because for private sectors, it's the personnel, it's their pay that keeps people going there, so that the improved medicine that is given there, corruption is curbed, and that is where we are talking about getting a leadership that is responsible, that curbs corruption. Even in the healthcare sector, there is a lot of corruption. We had the Minister for Health, Mutahi Kagwe, say that there are so many people, Miriam, who are entrenched in the healthcare system in this country, who he called Afya House cartels, who continue siphoning public resources that are meant to improve the lives of the people of Kenya. But kudos, congratulations to the President of the Republic of Kenya for the great investment that he has put into the lives of the people of Kenya, especially on the healthcare sector. We need to have leaders in this country who are going to be bequeathed the task of improving the lives and the healthcare of the people of Kenya, who are not corrupt, who are going to take corruption serious and be able to fight corruption and also improve the lives and also improve the welfare in terms of pay and also how they are treating the healthcare personnel in this country, and also the quality of medicines that we dispense to our clinics and also healthcare centers and referral hospitals in this country, Miriam. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And as I mentioned there earlier, the Universal Healthcare pilot program was rolled out in 4 counties. That will be Nyeri and Nairobi, Nyeri, Isiolo, Machakos, and Kisumu counties. But as we know, for the success of this program, Daniel, finally, as we conclude on this topic, and as Douglas has reminded us there, we know that health is a function that was devolved. We understand that. So for this universal healthcare to be successful, there has to be a cooperation between the national government and the county government in terms of how to implement some of these things and some of these changes and some of these ideas to the county governments. And a lot of times when you look at what has been happening in the counties and the amount of money they're even allocating for developments, you know how perhaps things like UHC will be at stake because the counties perhaps don't even allocate enough money. And my dad went to one of the hospitals in Yala, I think the government hospital in Yala last week, for a very simple test. The Yala hospital is a level for, I'm not sure. They did not have a very simple reagent to do it, you know, because he needed some samples taken and some tests done. So they had to send the samples all the way to Lancet in Kisumu. So you understand? So if the counties are not doing their part in ensuring the things that they're supposed to take care of are taken care of, then UHC might just be a success perhaps here in Nairobi because we have NMS, but what about the other parts of the country and the role the counties have in realizing this dream?
Yes, of course, that is actually the rationale under which almost all counties, not only in matters health, but everything, even infrastructural development. You know, the county has to partner with the national government. It has to partner with other bodies like World Bank to be able to generate some kind of infrastructural and general development of the county. So to me, Miriam, the goodwill that will come from the county will also actually determine the extent by which this universal health coverage will be a success. Remember, health is a devolved function, like you said, and therefore lots of money is come from the national government to go to the county government for various purposes. So if the county governments do not give universal health coverage projects a priority in their budgets, then as well it might be derailed in some of the counties across the country. So it is upon, first of all, the national government through the exchequers to make sure that they oversee the implementation of the universal health coverage, that they ensure that the county governments actually spend the money which is meant for health on health activities and not the recurrent expenditures or any other infrastructural development. So I think one thing that we need is just discipline. We need patriotism, and we need the goodwill of the counties to work with the national government. If the governor of a particular county actually wants his or her people to benefit from the good health or maybe the structures of the universal health coverage that is being rolled out by the national government under the Big Four agenda, then they have to cultivate a good working relationship with the national government. And in as much as we do have a devolved structure of government in Kenya, it does not mean that these devolved county governments can work in isolation. They need to work with the national government so that actually in tandem with whatever structures and with whichever plans that the national government has, so that they are able to replicate whatever the national government would have done in the olden days to the county level. And that was the essence of devolution, in that whatever is happening in Nairobi should be able to happen in Turkana or in Bomet or even in Kilifi, so that all Kenyans across the country are able to share this prosperity that happens in the country. So Miriam, I think on that regard now, the buck stops with the governors of these counties to ensure that they work in unison, they work in good rapport with the national government to ensure that all these great plans that the government has to ensure that all Kenyans get the universal health coverage and over their heads actually reaches the mashinani people. So that ball now is in the courts of the county governors. Let them forge a working relationship with the national government. Let them prioritize matters to do with the universal health coverage, Miriam. And I believe with that, putting all that into consideration, there isn't anything that cannot be achieved by the counties, Miriam. I submit.
Thank you so much. And speaking on counties, we've left that topic now, we're moving on. And we do have a couple of things I'd like for us to look at, and our time is limited. So I would ask for just short comments, if you don't mind. Thank you so much. On page 4, on the Standard newspaper, incomplete and abandoned best describes tens of mega projects initiated by counties in Rift Valley region. I think this is a reflection across counties in the country. The state of the projects that have consumed billions of shillings of taxpayers' money range from poorly done, stalled, marked complete to those yet to be utilized. These have become an eyesore in the counties, with some raising questions as to whether They were prioritized in the funding plans of the taxpayers' money. Auditor General Nancy Gathungu, in a recent audit on counties, revealed that taxpayers are yet to get value for their money, hence denial of services. For instance, the audit reveals a delay in the implementation of over 1,252 projects in Elgeyo Marakwet County. The county had budgeted 1.97 billion Kenya shillings that was allocated to 8 departments to finance the projects in the financial year 2019 and 2020. According to the audit, most projects were behind their completion schedules, and the county had spent 841.86 million Kenya shillings on June 30th, 2020, or 911 of the projects, 911. The Auditor General noted that the delays denied the locals of Elgeyo Marakwet the services and the economic benefits that are accrued from these projects. And so this is just one of the examples. This example in Elgeyo Marakwet, I think, is replicated across counties in the country. And we know that as we are coming towards the end of another electioneering period, and perhaps new leaders will be elected in some of this period, in some of these counties, and a lot of governors, a good number of them will not be coming back, and yet they've left this elephant project stalled there, perhaps for the next government to pick up, or the next government will come in with its own agenda and perhaps not even finish that. So that would mean a lot of money would have gone to waste. What are some of the ways that we could perhaps address this unnecessary spending and unnecessary wastage of public money that perhaps could have even gone to the universal healthcare and other things that are important in those counties? Douglas Kirimi.
Miriam, it is absurd to look at what is happening in counties, because one, we do not understand why we'll have many people or many leaders come up with bogus projects like a governor's mansion when the people are languishing in poverty, the people are languishing in lack of services, and also making sure that the people of, for example, the Tharaka Nithi are impoverished. For example, in the Tharaka Nithi, there was a program that was meant to improve agriculture. That is a program that should have been taken care of for over 4 years now, because you cannot take an agricultural project and also fund it one financial year, then it collapses the next year because it has no funding, whereas the governor is buying himself an 18 million Toyota Prado for his own use. And this is a governor that has other county vehicles, who keeps building governor's mansion where he does not even sleep because he has a house in Nairobi, Miriam. In Meru, for example, we have a governor's mansion that is not even supposed to be a priority. We have places in Meru County where we have no quality health care, we have no dispensaries, we have no medicine in hospitals. This lack of priorities from government, county governments, Miriam, this is the greatest enemy or monster of public funds, the greatest program that continues destroying the lives of the many people that is supposed to have been improved, is being taken or gulped by these mega projects that do not help anyone. For example, the multi-million sharing governor's mansion program or project, or the deputy governor's mansion in Meru Town. These are programs that do not meet the needs of the people or the services of the people. What if the governor sleeps at their home, or maybe spends the night, or maybe roges at their house, and comes to a county that has improved the services, and also a citizenry that continues enjoying government services without the strain that we have today? Miriam, I think the only way we can be able to solve these problems is to have a coalition of ideas. We can be able to have maybe a plan like the Vision 2030 that guides these counties, or maybe guides the national government, so that we cannot be able to continue using this money into bogus or maybe projects that are out of who are not a priority, which are not a priority in this country. For example, when we want to improve the healthcare of this nation, we can be able to partner universal healthcare to be devolved the way the vision of President Uhuru Kenyatta can be readopted by other counties, like Kitui County has done, Makueni County has done. Then other counties can be able to borrow a leaf and be able to continue with the same, without necessarily building us a governance mansion that will not help the people meet the needs of the people. Miriam, I submit.
I hear you totally. We still get these white elephant projects that go billions of taxpayers' money, and then the burden will have to be left to the incoming government. And then by then the prices of this material would have gone up. So another money that was meant to go to developmental projects in the counties now gets to maybe finish that. I don't know. It's a mess. We have to find a way of addressing this. What could be some of a way to addressing this?
I think it's just a matter of ineptitude on the side of the county governors or the county governments who are doing that. And whatever thing they should be reminded is that any project, before you embark on any project, then you have to get experts who will do a feasibility study for that project. And what I mean by a feasibility study is just conducting a survey, maybe a research to see whether that project, is it going to be impactful to the people of that particular region in terms of in making economic sense, in terms of even, just making sure that it's going to have returns. If it is an industry, is it going to have people coming on board and maybe bringing their produce? Is it going to be sustainable enough to run in that particular region? So feasibility study is the only measure, is the only barometer of whether a project will be impactful to the people or not. So, but you find most of these governors don't have any economic knowledge, and some of them actually operate based on whims and emotions. They cannot take advice of experts, and therefore they end up setting up white elephant projects that do not have any impact on the people of that particular county, and projects that are not even function quite well, rendering maybe even the location where they are. So if you find someone maybe like building an abattoir in Isiolo without having maybe structures to enable farmers to be able to breed their livestock and be able actually to know the procedures and the processes or how they can be able to maybe use the abattoir, then that project goes to waste. People will still prefer selling their meat in butcheries and selling their livestock in Nairobi. If you have maybe a county like let's say Nyandarua, where we do have a lot of potatoes, and these people maybe do not have the maybe a facility that can help them store their potatoes, that can help them even process them. Then you find that when you build maybe something like even a big market, you don't gonna an ultra modern market. In that case, you're not gonna get people to sell in that ultra modern market, because these are people who actually transport their farm produce all the way to Nairobi for ready market, or in Kisumu or any other parts of the country. So Miriam, it's all about conducting feasibility studies. Let there be projects which come up because of necessity and not because you are competing and you want to show that you are working, building big buildings, constructing roads to nowhere. And then at the end of the day, all that happens at the cost of taxpayers' money, and the projects actually yield zero revenue, zero actually importance to the people who are supposed to be benefiting from those projects. Just like my brother Douglas Krimi Bundi has said, that money should be channeled into more useful projects that will actually positively and directly impact on the lives of the people of that particular county. You cannot be sweeping roads when we have people lacking water in their houses, or you cannot be connecting electricity when people are dying in hospitals due to lack of medicine. So we need to have priority. We need to have feasibility studies on the projects that the counties undertake, and that also stops with the county governors. They need to invest in economists. They need to invest in experts who do such projects. And then we shall have solved that particular problem, Miriam. I submit.
Okay, and just a bit of some politics before we get into a quick rundown of some of the stories making headlines across the continent of Africa this morning. On page 5 on the Standard newspaper, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has denied claims that they have placed conditions and irreducible minimums for the One Kenya Alliance to join ODM leader Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja movement. Speaking after service at Redeemed Gospel Church in Huruba, Nairobi yesterday, Mr. Kalonzo said One Kenya Alliance principals who are leaders of integrity and could not put conditions on other people to work with them. Further, the Wiper leader said One Kenya Alliance was growing strong and that it would be the one welcoming other formations into the alliance. There has been pressure from several quarters for One Kenya Alliance to team up with Azimio la Umoja to guarantee around one win against Kenya Kwanza formation, but Principals Kalonzo and KANU Chairman Gideon Moi, Kenya leader Martha Karua, and Cyrus Jirongo have been adamant that other formations should join them. And so they're still standing ground there. But Kalonzo now is saying they don't have any demands. I mean, judging from his experience before working even in NASA, he should have some demands, and those demands should be written on paper, Douglas. Do you believe what Kalonzo is saying?
Kalonzo is being cagey. I believe him. He's a statesman, he's a good man, and he's being cagey on the demands of his own political interest as a leader. He needs to tell the people of Kenya, if he wishes so, that he has his own interest in the next government or in the next regime. Kalonzo, for me, Miriam, in the shortest words possible, Kalonzo Musyoka, the former vice president, is just being cagey. I truly believe that he has his own interest, and those interests are entrenched on their Oka coalition principles that they think can be able to propel the next administration or the next regime that may come from Oka or maybe the Azimio la Umoja side of coalition. That said and done, Kalonzo Musyoka should tell us, we the supporters of Oka, or we who are not supporters of Oka, what are they going to get if they are going to support Azimio la Umoja? Even Raila Odinga and Jubilee administration or the Jubilee Party of Kenya led by President Uhuru Kenyatta as the party leader, they have their conditions. They are sharing government or maybe sharing positions as they are going to get the next government or form the next administration medium. Even William Ruto himself is promising Musalia Mudavadi something. Maybe he paid him off, or Moses Wetangula. And people are asking, what am I going to get? Political interest should be disclosed as a matter of public interest, because there are people who believe in Oka, there are people who believe in Kalonzo Musyoka, there are people who believe in GM, Gideon Moi, there are people who believe in Cyrus Jirongo. He needs to tell the people who believe in them that this is what we are getting. Let's join hands with Azimio la Umoja. He should stop being cagey. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then Lasonga, Kalonzo now says no, they don't have any reducible, demands as a matter of if they decide to join the Azimio la Umoja coalition. And of course, while he was speaking yesterday during that church service, Kalonzo challenged the Office of the Attorney General to look into the law that regulates registration of churches, saying their right of worship had been infringed. He said the regulations and registration of churches negated the right to worship, and the AG should move with speed and recommend for the review of the same through Parliament. Perhaps that comes on the backdrop of what Raila's wife, Mama Ida Odinga, said the other day, but perhaps that is a conversation for another time. But he's saying we do not have any preconditions. Surely, from his experience in this political arena, I mean, you just can't walk in and because you have integrity. What is he not telling us?
I agree with what my brother Douglas is saying. Kalonzo is just blowing hot and cold, So we know whatever they want as One Kenya Alliance, and I know his prayer is that he will be given the running mate position to Raila Odinga and Azimio la Umoja, and that is what he's playing. And majority of politicians will actually want the public to see what they do not actually want them to see, and vice versa. So to me, I believe whatever was on the newspaper was what One Kenya Alliance really wants. Whatever Kalonzo was talking about yesterday is not actually on their mind. He's not just going to do charity in one as Azimio la Umoja. He knows he has people who have been supporting him. He knows he has to bargain for them. He knows he has to bargain on his own behalf so that he doesn't sink into political oblivion. But Miriam, as it is, I believe he knows quite well that their ultimate destiny is in Azimio la Umoja, because if he does not join Azimio la Umoja, Miriam, I can assure you that Kalonzo Musyoka is going for an early retirement in 2022. If Musalia Mudavadi, just the same way Musalia Mudavadi had an option of joining Azimio, but he jumped on the other side, which is going to form a very vibrant opposition. So Kalonzo Musyoka knows that he does not actually perhaps have any other option. But all in all, he has tough conditions. But I believe this one is just a bluff, just to maybe soften the ground, just in case the Azimio side tells them we cannot give you all these other conditions. Of course, like we talked the other day, I said there's no way Azimio la Umoja is going to hand them all those demands as One Kenya lands, because also the number of votes they're bringing on board cannot be equal to whatever Western Kenya, Central Kenya, and the Nyanza region actually bringing on the table. So they have to be considerate. If Kalonzo Musyoka is going to be given the running mate position, then they have to forego other positions. If he is not being given the running mate position, then Azimio la Umoja could be more generous and add them other slots in government. And the government is a big institution, Miriam. If they win the election, I believe it will be able to accommodate all of them and actually offer good positions to the stalwarts of One Kenya lands. But also we have to discuss this in the backdrop that BBI could actually be making its comeback very soon. Very, very much optimistic about that. So to me, I believe that is what they're looking at. And for them to join Azimio la Umoja, well, actually what Kalonzo is saying.
Just a very lovely story. I'm sure all of us will be proud of as Kenyans, as the University of Nairobi, a top university in Kenya and East Africa. Of course, this is not the first time. The University of Nairobi has been ranked the top university in Kenya and the East African region, and number 12 in Africa out of 2019 in the continent in the latest rankings by Webometrics. The university, which has topped the local rankings for the last 7 years, is in position 1,777 globally in the January rankings out of the 11,998 institutions of higher education ranked. Last year, the university was ranked 13th in Africa, so it's one place forward. So I think that is a good thing. And the list also shows Kenyan public universities ranked better than private ones, despite many financial and management problems that plague them. I think walisahau kusema corruption, but ni sawa tu. They're still doing well, beating their private counterparts. All right, so let's just get into the other news across the continent of Africa, and we start with Tunisia, where Tunisian President Kais Saied on Sunday dissolved a top independent judicial watchdog, accusing it of bias, the latest controversial move since his sack to the government last year. Saied has broadened his grip on power since July 25th, when he dissolved the government and froze parliament before moving to rule by decree in the country. That was the cradle of the 2011 Arab Spring uprising that ousted a series of autocratic leaders. And I think if President Saied continues with these moves that he keeps making, he will take Tunisia back to the, another uprising if he's not very careful. And then we move on to Addis Ababa, where President of Senegal, Macky Sall, on Saturday took over the rotating African Union chairmanship at the opening of the 35th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa. Sall replaces DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi. In his acceptance speech, Sall said Africa is facing big challenges with regard to the increasing unconstitutional change of government and the coronavirus pandemic that has hit the continent. And I think President Sall must be very happy. President this morning, as his country won the African Cup of Nations yesterday, beating Egypt. And then we move on to Tanzania. Tanzania's weather watchdog has issued an alert over the presence of the tropical cyclone Batsirai in the Indian Ocean, saying it is expected to affect weather assistance in some parts of the country. The Tanzania Meteorological Authority said in a statement late Friday that the cyclone was likely to cause increased rainfall at periods of high winds that reach and exceed 40 kilometers. And Tanzania is just not too far from us. So I need to hear from the weathermen here in the country to assure us that, we are kind of safe, because we do share the Indian Ocean parts there. And we go to Guinea, where Guinea's Transitional Assembly, which is tasked with organizing a return to civilian rule after the military overthrow of last year. President Alpha Conde held its first session on Saturday. All 81 members of the National Transitional Council, known by its French acronym CNT, were present for the inaugural session in Parliament buildings in Conakry. AFP journalists said the session lasted several hours and was opened by CNT President Dansa Kuruma and in the presence of Transitional Prime Minister Mohamed Bavogoy. So that is the latest news from across the continent of Africa. I don't know if we have time for any comments, but perhaps we might reserve that as we look at our next show, where let me just remind us what we shall be talking about: AU's wars in keeping peace and security in Africa. So I think during that time, you'll have an opportunity to comment on some of these stories. Thank you so much for your time, Daniel Wasonga and Douglas Kiribi. And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. This has been Kenya and Africa at a glance. Don't go too far. Diplomatic Leaks will be coming shortly. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Good morning.